Hear that? Nothing? Me neither. But that's the perfect spot for your company's name to step into the spotlight. Become an underwriter for As You Mic It and let every episode be your curtain call. Slip a note to podcast@pashakespeare.org for more information.
It's absurdist at best, you know, and, Carl said it, it's Kafka meets Looney Tunes.
Hello, and welcome to As You Mic It in the Spotlight, where we shine a light on the creative minds powering Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival's 2025 Summer Theater Series. I'm Connie Berenger, Associate Producer here at PSF, and in today's episode, we're exploring two wildly different approaches to Shakespeare, from the bold, actor-driven work of our Extreme Shakespeare production, Timon of Athens, to the playful, family-friendly world of Shakespeare for Kids featuring Hamlet. All of today's guests are longtime friends of the festival, familiar faces who've been bringing their artistry, humor, and heart to PSF audiences for years. Later in the episode, we'll hear from Tony Lawton, a master of humor, character, and chaos, who, after his turn earlier this season as Franz Liebken in The Producers, is back with Sempronius in Timon of Athens. Then, in Act 3, we'll speak with one of PSF's most trusted collaborators, S4K director Matt Pfeiffer. But first, artistic director Jason King-Jones sits down with two festival favorites, Greg Wood and Susie Stevens, seasoned performers who've graced our stages for decades. This summer, they take on Timon of Athens, the rarely produced Shakespeare that's equal parts tragedy and satire, performed through our Extreme Shakespeare model. No director, no designers, just the actors, the text, and the thrill of live discovery.
We begin our spotlight on Timon of Athens. Joining us are two festival artists who've been a part of PSF's foundation. Partners on stage and off, they've been performing here an epic number of times. Their daughter practically grew up backstage, and their artistic legacy at PSF is as rich as their performances. Greg steps into the role of Timon, a man brought to his knees by false friends, and Susie plays the searing truth-teller, Appomantus. Let's hear how these seasoned veterans are navigating this stripped-down approach to one of Shakespeare's most biting satires. Some people call it a tragedy, but I think we agree it's probably not, actually.
Yeah, there's too much other stuff going on, and I think we had talked about this earlier. It's something that Carl Wallnow, who's also in the show, has been at the festival for a long time, but he sort of coined the phrase, it's Kafka meets Looney Tunes. Mm-hmm. And it really is. It's absurdist on so many levels. I mean, it's absurd. It's passionate. It's funny. It's very funny, actually. It's extreme. It's also tragic and horrific and sad and touching. And so, I mean, I believe it is one of Shakespeare's later plays, clearly, because it wasn't finished. It looks like a couple of people got together, Middleton and Shakespeare, and started writing this stuff, and it's pretty clear who wrote what, and then just sort of put it on the shelf and waited to come back to it at some point. There's parts of Coriolanus and Lear and other things in this play that he went on to do, but the Shakespeare, at least in my opinion, in his later years, was really toying with throwing huge emotions right into each other right away. I mean, you think about Winter's Tale, where they come out, Leontes and Hermione come out, they're in love, it's wonderful. And within not even a page, Leontes is accusing her of having an affair with his best friend. And so you've got love, like extreme love and extreme jealousy and anger and hate banging right up to against each other. And to a certain extent, Timon doesn't go to those wild extremes, but playing with all of that stuff in one play, not just anger and love, but everything, greed and friendship. And
it's interesting, too, that, you talk about other plays that you can see echoes of in Timon that became much more produced, much more popular plays. But in terms of just the plot of Timon, there aren't a lot of subplots. There's no real subplot. Alcibiades is the one, but that does connect pretty directly to Timon. Right. And so I feel like the plot is fairly straightforward. Yeah. There's not a lot of loose ends to put together.
When you think of something like Lear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just for the listeners who haven't experienced the play yet, can one of you kind of give us a brief summary of like what is that plot? Like what is it? What's going on in this?
It's your basic riches to rags story. you know, your Timon.
Can you buy friends?
Yeah.
If are they friends?
Yeah.
The nature of
the nature
real
of
friendship.
Real friendship, yeah.
So Timon is a wealthy man of Athens.
Mm-hmm.
He's a philanthropist. He's a giver. He's a natural giver.
Mm-hmm.
He loves to have people around him, and he wants to. His giving is his love language. It seems like.
Yes.
So everybody and he works under the thesis that as he gives, other people will give as well.
Right.
That generosity goes both ways.
It's reciprocal.
And
yes.
he what he learns tragically is he's given everything. He has nothing left to give. And then when he starts asking for people to give back to him, the answer is no. Right. And then he realizes that humanity is garbage, and he gives up on humanity.
Right.
And then leaves society. Coincidentally, find some money and a bunch of trash or gold in the ground when he's digging for roots.
You know, like you do.
Like you do. The irony of it is that when he has nothing, the universe gives him stuff, and of course he doesn't want it at that point.
Right.
And so also gives that away.
Right.
And goes off to die.
Yeah.
And then there's a subplot of Alcibiades, who is a soldier, a general, who is a friend of Timon's, who is trying to stand up for one of his soldiers who in peacetime committed the act of murder. And in trying to defend this person, the senators wind up banishing Alcibiades.
Right.
So then he is also then given up in his own way on Athens, gathers a militia, and is now going to come march to and come into Athens as a conquering force. Happens to pass by you along the way, and you also help him because he wants to screw Athens, and now so do you.
Right.
That's kind of what we're looking at in the story.
Yeah.
So so that's an interesting play. That doesn't feel it doesn't feel like a Shakespearean play.
No, it doesn't.
No, and like I said, you really can see the other hands involved in writing it. It's actually, I love it. I mean, when you can tell that Middleton's writing it because he writes almost colloquial dialogue really well, and it's so different than the way Shakespeare puts words together. You can tell the difference. It's almost seamless. There are things that, I mean, like I said, they probably would have worked more on it at some point if they had gotten back to it. But making that sort of very almost contemporary dialogue working with Shakespeare, it almost does it. Now we've done, just for purposes of performing it, we've cut the play. Yeah. We've moved. We haven't changed the play at all. We've just cut a lot of repetition and tried to make it focus it. The other thing that Shakespeare and Middleton did when they wrote it was there are a lot of characters that just show up. Yeah. Especially toward the end. They weren't even in the beginning of the show. So you're who, why, and so we combined a lot of those to make it make sense. But we both have been doing Shakespeare for a long time, and Timon. Yeah, nice. Yeah, snuck that right in there. Yeah. And it's sort of refreshing to read because I had no connection to this play at all before I started reading it. None. Hadn't seen it. I mean, I knew it was in the canon. Never read it. Never seen it. Didn't see a scene. Didn't work on anything in any kind of classes or anything. So this was a surprise, and it's been I think it's been in fact. Because I did the cutting, I was really excited because it was funny. This is a funny play. This is great. Tell them.
I did say, where is the heart in this play? Where's the, and I have to say too, speaking as a woman, there are no women characters in this play. So already I feel a bit shut out. The women are dancers and prostitutes. And So where is the heart?
Yeah.
And here, the heart of the play is this incredibly generous man who goes from one extreme to the complete other extreme. Nothing redeeming about any of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did say that.
But I think part of that might be the point also.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That Timon has surrounded himself with a bunch of guys. He's been this kind of generous benefactor. He only sees women as entertainers in some way, and doesn't have a real connection to a woman. Now we've cast you as Apomantus, and I want to get to that. But so in some of it, it's because there aren't any nurtures. There's no women in the play. There's like we've also cast Flavius the servant as Karen Peaks. So we've added a couple of female actors in the play, but the characters as written are just a bunch of guys, and this is what happens in a world where there aren't any women to help kind of like create a rational.
Yes, and no even reference to a history for Timon.
None.
Was he married? Did he have a mother? I mean, it's very. He just seems to appear.
This is what.
Sorry.
This is what makes the play more allegory than narrative in a lot of ways as well.
Yep.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's really true.
Which I think lends to the absurdist quality of it, because it lives somewhere that's not fully. You can't just go, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
And I like that. I don't think it interferes with anyone coming to see it as far as what they would probably get at it. In fact, it sort of opens it up to how they're actually perceiving it.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, particularly doing it in the Extreme Shakespeare thing, where you only have 4 days and you have to make decisions quick, and you have to
quick
run
decisions, exactly. And I just want to point to something. I know you like that. Where does this live? And it is more of an allegory. And I think Greg Lemming, our speech text coach, had mentioned to me a couple of times actually that there's a Beckett quality to it, which I think is right on.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a Beckett quality kind of summer with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Well,
you got to go there someday.
Well, I think that's
world.
I was going to say, what better time?
That's the other thing that's topical about the play is it is about. I mean, it's very topical.
Yeah.
Right now, we could have, we had talked about, do we make more of what's going on now? And you know what? You don't have to. You don't have to hit anything over the head in this play, because it's clear that people are only in it for something. They may be living in the moment and enjoying the moment, but the very next moment, they are somebody else. You get to see the other side of them.
Yeah. It's funny. In A Raisin in the Sun, Brandon Burton, who played Walter Lee, and he's playing Alcibiades here. Right. He has this line about, there are only two types of people, the takers and the tooken. And like this is that kind of like this kind of worldview where Timon doesn't believe that at the beginning. He doesn't understand that, but this is a world full of a lot of takers and tooken.
Yeah, it really is. When I first started reading the play and getting to know this play, I found myself immediately suspicious of Timon's motives and intent, even if Timon himself is not completely aware. I mean, there's no text to suggest that he has any other motive than generosity, but there is frequently, maybe even always, an implicit understanding that it is a reciprocal in some way. There is some quid pro quo.
He says it, Timon says it, commanding one another's wealth.
Right. And the question always in my mind is, where does that live on the scale of altruistic generosity? If, let's say, it can never be all one thing or the other, where is it for Timon in terms of his expectation? And is he just that naive that he expects other people operate the same way he does?
I think he is that naive. I do. I really do believe. Because like you said, there's no real indication of any nefarious or
Well, it wouldn't even
ulterior
have to
motives
be
to the giving.
nefarious
Ulterior
necessarily.
motives.
Yeah.
There isn't. There's not nothing comes across as a quid pro quo.
Right.
Except, the understanding that we all have in this room that my money is yours, my riches are yours, your riches are mine. Can you imagine a better way to live when we're all together feeling the same way? We're able to, we have each other's back constantly. This is the way to live.
So he's a socialist.
Oh,
Well, I think that he has a deep.
as long as I have the soup.
It seems to me like, and not to psychoanalyze too much,
Right.
because you're in the middle of it, but like Timon's got a deep need to be loved.
Yes.
And it's like that, and that unlimited need for affirmation and affection is transacted by giving to other people,
Yes.
so that
Yes.
they say thank you and they want to spend time with you.
Yes.
Right.
And so you need those people around you to love you, and the way that you can then, the love language thing I said is by giving money, coins, wealth, horses,
Right.
anything you have to give.
So
But
that's
nothing
buying friendship.
Yeah,
really.
nothing any deeper. That's the flaw, which is why it's so easy to pull the rug out from underneath him.
So let's talk about Apemantus then. How does Apemantus function in this play, and why are you having so much fun doing it?
I've really gone back and forth quite a bit. I feel very fortunate that I kind of have a built-in person to talk. Well, I don't want to say sounding board, because we've had some really interesting conversations. And my idea about Apemantus has morphed a bit. First thing is I wanted to understand the actual nature of what a cynic is, because a cynic philosopher, we think of a cynical person or cynicism today,
Right.
has such a negative connotation. And I think, if I understand history correctly, that it ultimately, the cynic philosophy did develop into a more negative thing, but it wasn't until much later. Cynics believed that our responsibility as humans was to live in the world in harmony with nature. No excesses on any side. And there's nothing inherently negative about that way of life. There were some famous cynic philosophers who were, I take it pretty offensive, and I'm not remembering the name of the guy right now. But I don't think that isn't necessarily the purest nature of a cynic philosopher. But how then to incorporate that? This was a man's role. Do I want to play this as a man? I started thinking it's a gender fluid character, or a non-gendered character.
Yeah.
And I thought of personalities like George Carlin. To me, is the sort of purest contemporary representation of someone who simply looks at the world and calls things the way he sees them. But I didn't think it was useful for me to pretend to be a man in this world, because it's completely populated by men. And then I just thought that an older woman, which I have some experience of being one, an older woman brings a type of sensibility and wisdom to this world that could be seen along the same lines as the cynic philosopher who just points things out as she sees them. That's kind of the trajectory of my thinking about the role. And we talked too about why do I show up to this party that is full of people and activities that Apemantus has no interest in, but I think it has to be connected to Timon. It implies we have some history, which the play does not.
Right.
But I think in our production, it kind of is in there because I don't know why else I would be here. Just to get the general Athenian invite isn't, I think it's because it's Timon and Apemantus's desire to help Timon see the light before it's too late.
Yeah, so there's, we talked about, one of those things where at maybe some point years ago, there was an almost relationship, but they're just two completely different people.
Right.
It didn't drive them apart, but there was the realization that it could never be anything more than what it is, but it's still enjoyable. Timon invites her all the time to the party, knowing what it's going to be, almost anticipating and hoping it's going to be that way. So I think Timon enjoys what she brings and enjoys what it does to the other people in the room at times.
And I have to jump in. This is clearly one of those quick decisions we've made on behalf of the production.
Right. Sure. Yes.
But, who's to tell us no?
But we get to have that, wonderful moment in Act 2, which is almost a waiting for Godot, kind of the first time two people have ever really sat together and just talked for a little bit.
In this play.
Yeah. It's just a short little, with nothing else going on around it, which I think is nice. And we're the only two people, I think, in the play that could do that.
And an attempt to understand and come to some
it could be played in many different ways.
Sure.
But it's nice that we sort of stumbled on that way to play it. So.
Well, that brings me to the opportunity that you two get to work together as husband and wife, as artists and being scene partners. Is this something that you often get to do, or how? Like, what's the experience like sharing the stage with your spouse?
It's great. It's how we met 25 years ago, 26 years ago, something like that. Yeah. And it really has never changed. There are, the tricky part sometimes is sort of when you start delving into something and you're working together. And like we did a year ago, we did Virginia Woolf together. And I was on tour, so I was learning my lines by myself, and Susie was learning her lines at home. And we'd get together when I would have breaks, and we would go through the show together.
And we did a lot of dramaturgy on the phone.
Yeah, we did. We really did. And but it's we're in the room. We both have ideas. We're both we start doing the thing. And I looked over at Susie at one point. She's just giving me this face like, and I said, "What?" She goes, "Are you gonna do it like that?"
Oh,
literal, are you going to do it like that?
I know the thing you are not supposed to say.
Right. But you're actually, because that, it is one of the, you don't want to hear that from any other actor and stuff like that. But when you're in a relationship with that person, it's like, you go, of course I'm going to do it like that. I've been thinking about this for months now. What do you mean? And but you were right.
But there is a level of trust there.
Exactly.
And to answer your question, we've been incredibly lucky and have gotten to work together quite a few times. It's not a given, but it is such a perk when it gets to happen. We're always very happy for it. And one of the reasons is because I know you're watching me too, and I just feel like we are able to make one another better because we both have the play in mind always.
It's nice to have someone who really understands the work and what goes into it, and also understands your way of working.
Yeah.
And it's very nice to be able to talk to somebody, and like you said, the trust that sort of develops, and because you really need a sounding board at times, or at least some pushback, or some, are you going to do it that way? Because it's helpful. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Because you always get locked into something, and most of the time now, we all know we don't have a lot of time in rehearsal to really dig into things. Sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes it is. But if you can come to rehearsals with a more well-rounded idea of what you want to do based on some criticism that you may have got, or some feedback, not criticisms, feedback, then it's always a plus. It always is. So.
Yeah.
I love it.
I agree. Everything you say.
With everything you say. That's good. That's good for another 5-6 years of our marriage.
That'll work.
I know you guys are acting now.
Oh, we're showing.
Greg, real quick, we're just about to end this. Can you talk a little bit about what decisions did you combined some roles, you tried to streamline, you tried to get rid of some of the fat, and in some ways you kind of helped give some life to a play that didn't see a life when Shakespeare wrote it and put it on the shelf.
Right.
What's it like to kind of get into that muck and really work around in that?
I love it, particularly for this process, because you only have 4 days of rehearsal, no directors and stuff like that. So to get to have that level of familiarity with something that you knew nothing about was really helpful. So I know that when we first talked about it, I actually asked if I could do that because I knew I would need that sensibility,
right?
Which has been very helpful. But the other thing that was very helpful was you let me know relatively early on who you were thinking about for different roles. So once I had that in my head, it was easier to make the cuts because I know a lot of the actors in the show that I've worked with for years. And so I was able to go, all right, I bet you they'd love to say this, and this stuff I want to keep in, even though it might be a little long, it doesn't matter, they're going to make something of it. So I'd always had the actors in mind who were going to actually perform it possibly. And then the other thing was, when I wasn't understanding where things were going, that's when I went, well, what if I just cut this and we just jumped from, because somebody has just said this line, but it's not answered for 3 pages, really. I mean, we don't get back. So what happens if we just trim the other stuff around it, the meat, like you called it, the fat, I should say, and just get back to the meat? And so that's the first thing I did. And I didn't really worry too much about time.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in cutting for time yet. But the first thing was just try to make this play with all of these characters, sort of trim that down to make it one play.
Yeah.
And I think we have a pretty good cutting, a pretty good a play that has forward momentum, even though you might not know what's going on because it's so crazy at times. But I do think it goes forward, and I like with Karen Peaks, who you mentioned, who plays my servant Flavius. She has a wonderful monologue in the play, but it comes in the middle of the play when Timon leaves. And I was looking at it, and because the play sort of just ends.
Yeah.
It's Timon's dead. Literally, somebody comes on and says, Timon's dead. Oh, sad. Done. And I thought, wow, but this part of this monologue would be a lovely epilogue.
Yeah.
And so we just moved it to the end of the play, and I think it's a nice way to end the show. So those things you look for, just if you're looking at it as an audience member, and it's a play you've never seen before, how would you like to see it?
Yeah, it's funny. It's not unrelated to the work that when you're working on Hamlet, and you've got a bad quarto, you've got the second quarto, you've got the folio, and you've got to figure out how you're going to navigate that.
Right.
And you also still need to cut it unless you really want to ask the audience to exercise a 4-hour attention span.
Right.
You have to make these editorial decisions, and something that I think is just helpful for our audience and our listeners to understand is that these texts really are living pieces that the artists are making editorial choices, the directors, the actors in this company, figuring out how do we craft the material that we have, the raw material we have, to then make a performance out of it, a performance for our audience in 2025 now, and if we did this again, it would be different in another year. And with a different audience, it would be a different piece as well. And a different actor might then inform which text you're choosing to highlight or not. That all these things kind of work together, and that the text is not something that is concrete or fixed.
Right.
It's a kind of an organism that we get to water and feed and trim and adjust in order to kind of make the event happen.
Right.
And make sense for us now. Yeah. Not changing the language. I'm not really a big I know there's still a movement to sort of update Shakespeare.
Yeah,
and
I'm not into that
Yeah,
myself.
don't do it. Do your own adaptation.
Yeah.
And call it that. But don't, if you want to do Shakespeare, do Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like you were saying, it has always been changed.
Yeah.
The actors were changing it when they went on the road. That was with the Cortos,
Yeah.
Actors were making it make sense for them. And I do believe that if Shakespeare came back today, he would look at these plays and go, "Oh, no. You don't. Oh, no. What do we have? We have lights? No. Take this out. Let's change. Yeah. People. Oh, wait a minute. We're moving more toward an hour and a half, 2 hours. No. So we need to cut an hour out of this place. He's a populist playwright, and he would have done the same thing today. So I don't really feel too bad in cutting, reworking, making the show work for us today. I don't have any kind of.
We're massaging it.
We're massaging it. Yes.
Well, I thank you for the work that you've been doing. Thank you for being a part of PSF again.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, and thanks for being on our As You Might It podcast.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
We're delighted.
No pressure.
All right, that's
Thank you.
Prepare yourself for some drama. Experience the thrill of live professional theater right here in the Lehigh Valley with the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival's thrilling summer theater series. Don't miss it. Tickets on sale at pashakespeare.org.
And we're thrilled to welcome Tony Lawton, actor, writer, director, and a true friend of the festival. This summer, he's bringing Sempronius to life, and earlier this season, he played Franz Liebkind in our production of The Producers. Sempronius is a noble name, but not exactly noble in his actions. And with Tony's signature blend of intellect and humor, he helps tilt the balance of this play towards something darkly comedic. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much. This is fun.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Like I said, a lot of our audience members that have come to PSF year after year, when they see that you're in a show, they get excited. They know that they're going to be in for something special. You just showed me a note on your phone of all the shows that you've done at PSF, starting in 1999.
Right. Yeah.
Tell us about your journey as an artist and how you got to PSF in the first place and why you decided to keep coming back.
It's a tough club to get into. There are a lot of actors in Philadelphia who are great actors and they'd love to get up here, and it's the only place in the area that employs actors in the summertime, or one of the very few.
Right.
So in '99, I auditioned for when Jerry Schubert was here.
Yeah.
And I got cast in The Tempest, which Patrick Mulcahy directed, and Merry Wives, which somebody else directed. And I think Aaron Posner was doing Glass Menagerie or Blithe Spirit or something that summer. And he was in the room when I auditioned, and I think he shilled for me.
Oh,
I
really?
I think he really liked my audition, and I think he tried to sell Father Schubert on me.
Uh-huh.
And once you get in at PSF, it's easier to get hired back, but you got to get in at least once, and that was the start for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that, to speak to that, that it's hard to crack into the casting here at PSF. I find that interesting, but I also understand that like our audiences kind of love to see people returning.
That too.
So like if we have a choice to have like a really great comedic interpretation for a role, we can kind of go with somebody that they've never heard of. We can go with Tony Lawton, and in some ways it's like, well, why don't we go with Tony again? But it's also interesting because I don't want it to ever feel like, as the artistic director, I don't ever want it to feel like it's a club that you can't get into.
Right.
Because I think there are so many incredibly talented artists. That said, there are limitations on the number of roles that we have.
There's only so many roles.
Yeah.
And there's preference for people who've worked here before that the audience likes, and so that's and nobody else is hiring at this time of year. So.
Right. So it just is limited.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, though, we did get some new folks in this season, at least new to us. I'm thinking Mike Doherty as a perfect example of that. Yeah. Can you talk about what it's like working with some of the seasoned actors that we've had at PSF, and also working with some of the new folks?
Well, Mike is a guy that I have worked with before. I've known Mike for a long time. Now, when you're at PSF, in this culture with people that you worked with a lot before,
Right.
then there's a kind of familiarity and shorthand that helps you figure things out.
Sure.
But people that I've never worked with here who come and are here for the first time are a little disoriented, and they you can feel them trying to get their footing, But I think because Mike has worked with me and Scott and a lot of Philly people, he felt pretty comfortable from jump, I think, coming in.
That's great.
Yeah.
So thinking about Timon of Athens, we're doing the Extreme Shakespeare. How can you count on the number? How many times you've done the Extreme?
I think this is my 8th.
Your 8th. Yeah. What is it about the Extreme Shakespeare that makes you say yes and keeps you coming back?
Oh, I say yes to anything. But the Extreme Shakespeare I like because, for all the wrong reasons, I like it. I like working without a director.
Yeah.
I love working with other actors and solving problems in that way, and where there's not necessarily a really strong concept that a director and design team have come up with, where they're like, whatever you do, you got to fit it into this mold that we've created. We can read the play and take our impulses, and that's one less filter we have to put them through. And I like the pressure, and I like the sense that this is kind of how they did it at the Globe 400 years ago. That's romantic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And then, when it comes to, I'm thinking about like the choice you make as Sempronius, the costume, the jacket, the sunglasses. There's you make a statement about the kind of person you are as soon as you walk in, and we pulled the costumes in a couple of hours on the second day of rehearsal. And that in and of itself is a kind of an act of collaboration, working across. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of costume pull and how prepared were you for the Sempronius that you came up with, or how much was inspired by what was put in front of you and what other actors were pulling? I'm just curious if you can share a little bit about that.
That might be the most fun part of the hit and run is the costume pull. You got. Is it 2 hours? It's 2 hours.
It was an hour in the storage unit and then an hour in the other storage.
2 hours. 2 hours to put everything together. I had some ideas in advance as I came in that he was going to be flashy and cheap and have poor taste.
Yeah.
But you arrive. All those costumes are on the same rack, and there's 2 or 3 other guys who are like that.
Right.
So you're all choosing from there, and then you're making little compromises and deals with guys. You're like, oh well, I'll wear this. Oh, this doesn't fit me. This would fit you. Here's my second choice, but this fits me. That's fun.
Sure.
And I even I play a couple of supernumerary characters in this. That's even a fun costume to put together. It's like, we need a bunch of soldiers. Okay, well, what's the simplest way we can solve that problem and not call too much attention to ourselves? That's a fun, different problem to solve.
It's thinking about you as an actor with so much experience, 26 years of experience just at PSF, being excited about playing a non-speaking soldier in an ensemble. That speaks to who you are as an actor, but also to this experience of Extreme Shakespeare. What is it about that you enjoy and that you're like so willing to say yes to?
It gives me a lot of pleasure to know that I'm going to be part of the storytelling that the audience may not even perceive on a conscious level. And this is an interesting thing. It was a problem in 2022. It hasn't been much of a problem since, but young company members that year had trouble focusing and had trouble listening and had trouble not pulling focus. And I thought, why is that a problem this year? It's such an important part of being in an ensemble.
Right.
It's such an important part of making a play work. And it's something that the rest of us had just absorbed.
Right.
And to try to explain that verbally to somebody, like, you have to teach the audience how to watch this play.
Right.
And if they happen to look at you, you have to be telling them where to put focus. I thought, that's a fun exercise.
Yeah.
The exercise of just being on stage and listening and not moving and just supporting where the real action is. I love being part of that.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I think that speaks to the idea of this collective ensemble, that you all have ownership of it. So its success or failure relies on all of you collectively doing your absolute best work to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That esprit de corps is romantic to be part of.
So is there a way, Tony, that has translated into other work that you've done?
The concept of ensemble has always been really important to me.
Uh-huh.
It's at war with my ego, which is another reason that I got into the business, is because I like people to look at me and and say, "Oh, good job." But I feel like in the war between the two things, I want the ensemble spirit to come out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, long history at PSF. Franz Liebkind and Sempronius, etc., are not the only roles that you've played. Is there a standout for you? Is there one that, like, when you kind of like look in your memory bank about work that you've done, is there something that you're like, that was the one that I'll carry with me?
In 2013, the hit and run was Love's Labor's Lost.
Yeah.
And I got to play Don Adriano in that.
Uh-huh.
And I really lucked out on the costume for that. It was a very elaborate, flashy costume. And we kind of, not only with that role, I feel like I hit the nail on the head with that role, but the whole production across the board was really good. I think it was Akeem's first show here.
Oh, really?
Akeem was one of the lovers.
Yeah.
We were so proud of that, and we did it ourselves. We built it out of nothing.
Yeah.
And in 2000, in 2000 we did 12th Night, and I got to play. That was one of the 3 times I got to play Festi in my life, and it was a great one. It was that role is. I love that role.
Festi's a fantastic role.
Yeah,
It's really great.
Yeah.
There's so much that in that play. There's so much love, but there's also a lot of loss and melancholy in that play.
Yeah, real darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just I think one of the interviews that's happening in this in this episode is actually with Matt Pfeiffer, and we're going to hear from Matt in the next segment, and he's going to talk a little bit about 12th Night as well. So it's not the first time that Festi has come up in this conversation and melancholy.
Fife was in that company.
He was?
Yeah, he played Fabian. We had a fantastic time. I had worked with him the summer before also as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about, you were talking about the young company, maybe in 2022, and having to educate them on how to give focus and how to pay attention. It strikes me that when you think about what they had lived through in 2020 and 2021 was their inability to actually have the kind of education of being on stage with other people, learning to be an ensemble. That is something that they didn't necessarily get.
I didn't take that into account. That's a really good theory because it was an anomaly. It was any other young company that we've worked with knows how to give focus.
Yeah.
And they had trouble with it. And it was probably because they were isolated.
They were spending a lot of time doing classes and performing Zoom plays where they had to be expressive on screen, but didn't necessarily know that, the work of being an ensemble, of just being able to give space and give focus to the action on stage.
It was weird, because Fife was directing that show, and there were some people who didn't know how to give focus. And he'd say, if you're not talking, just stand there. And then they would just stand there and they would look dead.
Oh, wow.
It was like they didn't know how to listen.
Yeah.
It was, as an actor.
Yeah.
It was surprising.
I'm just going to rephrase that. I'm going to say, like, maybe they had not yet learned how to listen. Yeah. Right? Like, they're still, that's part of what educational training is all about.
It's a skill. Yeah. You pick it up, you learn it. It's one of the things you get from training.
Absolutely. So we're recording this particular interview after the first preview of Timon of Athens. So you rehearsed on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, had Monday off, back on Tuesday with an invited dress, and then last night, Wednesday night, was a first preview. What did you learn from the audience? What did you learn about the play last night that you didn't know before?
Well, it's not. Timon's not on the hit parade.
Yeah.
So the audience doesn't know what to expect when they come in.
Yeah.
So we were all kind of terrified because we were off stage and Mike Doe had written this very funny curtain speech that we just roared at in rehearsal, and the audience did not laugh. And we thought, we're in trouble. But it was only because, or my theory is that they didn't know that that there were satirical elements in Timon. There's a light element in Timon. Yeah. And so they didn't know how to react, and we had to teach them as the play went along.
Yeah.
So they figured out how to watch the show eventually, but they didn't know at first.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Tony, it's there's been a real pleasure having a conversation with you. Thanks for being a part of PSF.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for joining into the Extreme Shakespeare once again. Thanks for making Franz Liebken so darn funny. and thanks for being a part of our As You Mic It.
It's my great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Behind every standing ovation is a network of patrons who know that theater changes lives. With tickets funding only half the cost, PSF counts on contributions to produce world-class theater, cultivate new audiences, and nurture future generations of artists. Give today at pashakespeare.org/support. Great theater is a collaboration both on stage and off.
Our next guest is no stranger to PSF audiences, whether he's on stage or behind the scenes. Matt Pfeiffer has been a beloved presence at the festival for years. This summer, he's directing Shakespeare for Kids, a family-friendly adaptation that brings one of Shakespeare's most iconic tragedies to life. Matt also appeared as Carl Lindner in this year's production of A Raisin in the Sun. And Matt is set to direct our upcoming Willpower Tour. So, we're catching him right in the thick of inspiring the next generation of theater goers. Let's talk about kids, kings, ghosts, and why Hamlet still matters, even with the juice box in hand. Welcome, Matt Pfeiffer.
Thank you.
Or should I say Matt Pfeiffer?
It is technically Pfeiffer. My first day as an intern at the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival in front of 100 professional people, Father Jerry Schubert said, "Your name is Pfeiffer, not Pfeiffer?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, you can call me whatever you want." And he said, "What do you want to be called?" And I just said, Pfeiffer, because I thought I'm not going to do this for the rest of my career. But I've caught no end of flack from my siblings. But my children, now that they know what the pronunciation is, they say Pfeiffer.
Do they really?
They do.
Oh, that's great. So you have a professional name and a personal name.
Yes.
Which is, I do too. I was talking with some of my neighbors who I got to know as just neighbors. And so to them, I'm Jason Jones. And then I brought them they were coming to the gala, and then they were like, wait a minute, people call you Jason King Jones? I'm like, yeah, people do. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, what do you want us to call you? I'm like, what? You can call me Jason, whatever you want. So
it's fine.
I understand. Like, having different names in different.
Well,
segments.
I was Fife since high school.
Okay.
So it's hard to explain to people. It's not actually Fife. It's Pife. But, rest in peace, Fife Dog. But because of Fife Dog, I was Fife Dog from the time I was 14 years old. So yeah, it was just easier to go with. And most people that know me call me Fife.
Sure.
So the PF doesn't really come into it.
Well, now that we've cleared that up.
Yeah.
So you've been directing the Shakespeare for Kids for how long?
I think it's 10 years.
10 years of doing
I
Shakespeare
think this
for
is
Kids.
It might be 12. I've lost track. I think that the first summer I did it was in 2013.
Okay.
Erin Sheffield created the program
right
as the education director. And so the first handful of years, she did it. And then Andrew Kane, who was an actor and the composer of the song and the show.
Right.
He took it over for, I think, 2 years.
Okay.
And his memory is the last time he did it was 2012. And in the summer of 2013, I directed the 39 Steps. And Patrick Mulcahy said, hey, would you want to stick around for the rest of the summer and do Shakespeare for Kids? And I think I did some prologues. And, you know,
you were still living in Philly at the time.
Yes,
too, yeah.
I lived in a row home in South Philadelphia.
Right.
And not paying for air conditioning for another month was almost worth the price of admission. So, you know, and all my friends were here. And so being on board for the rest of the summer was attractive to me.
Sure.
And so that began that process where I then, from the summer of 2013 forward, was directing one of the main stage productions every summer. And so part of that contract was I would do whatever the main stage show was I was doing, whether it was in the Rep or in the Schubert, and then I would stick around and do Shakespeare for Kids. And, you know, the first year I did it, it had, you know, Aaron and Andrew were, you know, Andrew had not directed much at all, and Aaron had directed a little bit, but they were more actors, educators, than directors.
Right.
So the show had never really, from my estimation, had not really been curated in from the same position that I was coming to it from, where, you know, oftentimes the S4K that I'm doing is in conversation with the Shakespeare play that I've directed.
Right. Yeah.
So there's this weird symbiosis of, I'm kind of doing a different version of this with younger actors and for a different audience, which is really cool. And so there was this kind of vitality in what happens if I bring all of my experience as a professional director to bear on this otherwise kind of, for lack of a better word, slap together show. I mean, and I say that generously as like, that's kind of the spirit of it, that it feels like these young actors have kind of thrown together this version of the show.
Can you actually just take a pause and actually, for our listeners who haven't seen a Shakespeare for Kids, can you just kind of give them just a little overview about what Shakespeare for Kids, the thesis of it is?
Yeah. I mean, the idea is Romper Room now is kind of too dated to reference. I mean, if I say it to the actors in the show, they don't know what I'm talking about. But this idea of a club of kids that have, like Pee-wee's Playhouse or Romper Room, there are these daily rituals. We're going to get something secret in the mail. We're going to have a word of the day. We have our own secret club. And it just so happens to be that our secret club is loving Shakespeare.
Right.
And so that every day we get assigned from PSF HQ to do a play. And back when I first started doing it, the play was never announced. So it had, not that I think the audience really cared about that, but the sense of the production was, we don't know what we're doing today. Which is still true. They still play the show that way. But the idea is a club of kids that love Shakespeare and then put on one of his plays for this audience. That's the central conceit. I guess the larger view of it is to say, how do you introduce Shakespeare to children in a way that feels exciting and fun and accessible? That's really the agenda at hand, is that I'm less concerned that a kid walks out of seeing Shakespeare for Kids and knows all the plot details of Hamlet.
Right.
But if their association with Hamlet is fun, or at the very least funny, if they encounter it later in life, they feel like, oh yeah, I remember, right? That's the one with the sock puppets, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter that the plot doesn't translate or that they're not thinking about to be or not to be. But if their association with the material is one of joy, that feels like our agenda is to, you know, just like with the Willpower Tour, we have this ability to meet people at a level where they're suspicious or disinterested. And a lot of that is born out of an insecurity of, I'm not smart enough to get this, which is true for adults as well. And so much of our mission, I think, as artists is to create this work in a way that opens it up. If we believe that these plays have value, it's because there's something really cool about being able to be in dialogue with these plays that are 425 years old that still connects us through time. There's not a lot of material like that. You know, we did Penelope earlier in the season, and the Odyssey, you know, has that. It's going to come back to theaters next summer, you know, vis-a-vis Christopher Nolan. There's something about these kind of classical stories that permeate time, and the iconography of those stories has infected most of Western culture, whether you engage with it or not. It's there. That's kind of the mission purpose of doing Shakespeare, I think. So when you boil that down to, okay, then how do I get a kid to to get on board with that. If a kid associates, we have a chicken jockey joke in our show.
You do.
And kids love it. I feel like I have to editorialize what Shakespeare for Kids is. Do I have to editorialize what chicken jockey is?
No, I don't think we need to worry about it so much. I'm just glad we don't have popcorn.
Yeah.
For people to throw.
It's throw, yeah. But anyway, the idea that a kid might think that is also contained within the world of Shakespeare is something that I have a deep value and commitment to, that it's demystified for you in a way that hopefully allows you access to the core of it. Now, if they laugh at chicken jockey, but they're able to, I don't know, hear it to be or not to be, or neither a borrower nor a lender be, or, any of the other very, very deep philosophical points of Hamlet, if any of those catch on. When my kids watched it, I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. Right. My 9-year-old definitely was angry at the idea that Claudius had killed Hamlet's dad. He could express that.
Yeah.
Like, why did he do that?
Right.
And we're dealing with it in a way that doesn't have a lot of gravity, but it is a factual plot point of the play.
Yeah.
And so he could scan both of those things. I don't know what the general audience takeaway is, but that in general has felt like a reason to keep going. And that when I show up to work on it every year, there's a lot of validation in the project, because you watch these young actors get to do Shakespeare in a way that they're not asked to do Shakespeare. They get to invest in themselves in a way that, when I was some of this came out of back in the day when I was an intern and we had the Green Show. And the Green Show, for longtime PSF audience members will remember, was this outdoor Renaissance show that we did. It was sort of, I took to calling it Renaissance Saturday Night Live. Right. Where we would do a skit, we would do a song, we would do a period song, period dance, and then something that riffed on pop culture and Shakespeare. But the real joy of that show was the intern company. That was their show. Right. They got to make it. So they were devising. I could say, Ozzy Osbourne is William Shakespeare starring in the Osbournes, but it's the Shakespeares. Go make that. And then they could come back and say, okay, here's what we came up with. Okay, we're going to do Who Wants to Be a Shakespearean King instead of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Right. So make that game show. And they can come back. And that, watching these young actors go off into corners of the lobby and the green, and kind of invent was probably more valuable than the show itself, which after a certain fashion had less value just in terms of time and audience expectation. And so it kind of had to go away. It wasn't that Shakespeare for Kids was created in the vacuum of that, but it kind of was created in the vacuum of that, that there was this, we don't have anything like this in our programming now, where there's kind of a little bit of overt silliness and Saturday Night Live and inventive comedy. We get it in the kid show, but the kid show still it's a play. Yeah. It's a play that has a story to tell, a beginning, middle, and end, and you can color outside the lines. But in general, we just didn't have aesthetically anything like it. So I feel like Shakespeare for Kids is the spiritual cousin of the Green Show. That there is this kind of, Aaron writes it, obviously, it is a script, but there is called upon many, many times for the actors to come up with their own invention. So I do think that when you look at the company of young actors that I've worked with over the last 10 years, most of those actors, not most, but a large percentage of those actors have gone on to play lead roles at PSF. From Gabe Moses to Ariana Daniels, people Taylor Congdon, there are people that have done the show that are, you see regularly. Yeah, Brandon Burton. I mean, the lead of Racing to the Sun was once. Not only did he do Shakespeare for Kids when he was a young actor, while he was at Yale and came back to work here in the summer, asked to do Shakespeare for Kids. He did? He asked to do it. So, yeah, so there is. I think for some actors, there is a real, this is ridiculous and absurd, but it's a lot of fun. So you mentioned that you've got a couple of children that are of the Shakespeare for Kids kind of target audience age. Has that impacted how you think about the show? Yeah. I mean, Chicken Jockey's in the show, not because I watch movie trailers, but because I have to go watch all these children's movies. So yeah, and they came to rehearsal and watched rehearsal last week, and the actors thought that was incredibly valuable. So yeah, I think that my own sense of play, my own sense of engagement has changed by my kids. as a director, I'm always leery of relying too much on the audience. I want to feel it.
Yeah.
I want the room to feel a certain way, but I would never want to sit down and go, what did you think? And what did you think? I'm pretty leery of that, mostly because I feel like I want to create something and trust that it resonates. Because if I try to crowdsource it, it's no good to me.
Right. I mean, that's part of being a director. Like, directing there's an autobiography quality to directing, right? Like, you wind up always putting some of your own truth in there and your point of view about the world.
Yeah.
So but you direct plays for critical thinking adults, right? And you do main stage shows, and you do Shakespeare for Kids, and you do the Willpower Tour, which is our high school tour that's going on its 25th year this year. It'll be the Scottish play this year.
Yeah.
So those are three very different audiences. How does that impact how you direct those plays?
I mean, I want to say it doesn't.
Yes, but
sometimes it has to do with the level of complexity in the acting choices.
Okay.
We did 12th Night a couple years ago, and there's a lot of melancholy in 12th Night. There's a lot of sadness in 12th Night.
Yeah.
And people think of it as a very funny play, but it's also, historically, we think he wrote it around the same time he wrote Hamlet. So those plays are very much in dialogue with each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when you do 12th Night, so this summer I did 12th Night in the Schubert with Akeem Davis as Orsino, and Greg Wood as Malvolio, and Scott Greer as Toby Belch, and a bunch of other, Suzanne O'Donnell, Alex Bechtel. When we did that production, I thought it was pretty thorny and complex, and dealt with the melancholy straight on. We didn't totally send it up. It was also incredibly funny. When you have Eric Kissam as Feste, you're going to get, you're going to get both. You're going to get an incredibly funny clown, but also the philosopher.
Yeah. Eric Kissam is playing Polonius now.
Yes. Yeah. They're probably, Polonius is probably smarter than most people think. And anyway, when I did the Shakespeare for Kids version of it, I knew I couldn't wrestle with that. I couldn't attempt to go, no. Malvolio is treated badly in the end, and we have to carve out space for him to be sad.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that, but I could also filter the story we were going to tell with an appreciation for how do we address the fact that actually these clowns do go too far. That we have to actually call that out. We can't just say beat up on this guy because he's pompous.
Right.
So we were able to do that, but I had to do that through storytelling or through practical narration rather than letting someone like Greg Wood come in and stop the play.
Yeah.
With his level of gravity,
right? So
that when he asks Olivia why, your heart breaks,
right?
Even though he's a pompous clown,
right?
So that I don't know if that tells that story, but I'm conscious of I want to touch this idea, but I can't touch it in that way,
right?
Because the screaming 4-year-old is not really going to leave space in the room for that. And we don't want to leave space in the room for that. We want this to be ebullient, and we want it to kind of bounce along the waves a little bit. If we go too far down, it really takes a long time to swim back up to the top. With adults, what did you say? Not critical thinking adults? Is that what
I said? Critical thinking adults.
Critical thinking adults. With critical thinking adults, you hope that you can carve out the space for that to happen. And having said all that, the overwhelming response to that production of 12th Night was, boy, that was so funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't, that was really sad, So so that's where I go, I don't have any control over that. And one of the joys of doing poetry, Connie and I were talking about, subtext in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And the delicate balance you do as an actor of of course there's always subtext, but the answer is always going to be on the text. It's irrefutable. So whatever you decide to do, there's only so much room for you to go because ultimately you have to say this exact line.
Right.
And the purity of that is something in poetry that you go, everyone's free to interpret that how they want. Everyone's going to take that journey how they want. I can't control that actually, which is where I cede to the audience. And I go, I can't make sure you got it and you got it and you got it and you got it. I have to trust that you go with it as you will.
Yeah.
I remember doing two two gents, and we worked so hard to make Proteus's asking for forgiveness at the end deeply felt, and he cried and he was broken, you know. And I remember preview or opening night, you know, I would never forgive him. Well, I tried to make a world where that, and you know, so I think in poetry there's only so much universal experience. There's a lot of subjectivity in what you receive.
Yeah.
It's again why we can come back to these plays time and time again, because your version of Twelfth Night and my version of Twelfth Night will inherently be different.
Yeah.
Even if you and I believe all the same things about the play.
Yeah.
Just simply by what happens in the alchemy of the rehearsal process.
Absolutely.
And so again, distilling that down for children is to try and be pure of heart, pure of intent. You can't welcome in too much complexity, not because they don't get it, but because the piece won't afford it. You kind of have to say, yeah, it's okay. We have to fall on our face, get pie thrown, shoot a water gun, and hold up a skull and say to be or not to be, you know. Or, you know, in the case of Brandon, you know, when I wrote his letter of recommendation to Yale, I wrote explicitly about how seriously he took, as this a dagger I see before me, all the while a guy was dangling a plastic sword on a fishing line above his head. You know, the incongruity of those two things, you want to be, that's the juice. That's where it sits in that place. So I don't know. I think that it's great to know that we're working on Shakespeare for Kids, not from a pedantic standpoint or a Shakespeare for Dummies version. It's not that.
Right.
It takes, you know, it's obviously poking fun at some of it. It's having fun at some of its expense, particularly when you're trying to explain to kids like, so wait, he's his uncle and his dad? Well, that doesn't make any sense. It's great to be able to say that, you know, and not just go, yeah. You have to, you know, you have to go 5 acts to understand this. So that is joyful, because I definitely think as a theater maker, I'm eager not to take myself too seriously. I think part of the pitch of myself is I say very readily that I was not a good student. I struggled at school. I went to Allentown College. I didn't go to DeSales University. And I say all the time, I don't think I would get into DeSales University. I got into Allentown College. But, you know, I would never pretend that I don't think I'm smart. I think I'm smart, but I was not a good student. And so academia did not jive with me very well. And yet here I am, I graduated in 1999. I've been working for this company for 26 seasons. I've found a way to make Shakespeare in a way that makes sense to me. And I guess I feel like when my parents in Northeast Philly, you know, my father was college educated, my mother was not, you know, they've come to see all these shows and they've taken this ride and they have questions and they get engaged and they have curiosity. And it makes me feel like this is not the dominion of the proletariat. You know, I mean, I should say it's more the dominion of the proletariat. That it's not the dominion of graduate degrees. Yeah. It is, Shakespeare was writing for common people, and he was sharing common experiences of his own time. And so somehow at the core of it is not the way we perceive it, I think, which is this highly intellectualized elite.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I was checking out at a local store earlier, like a week or so ago, and this younger individual who was checking me out was just like, and I was wearing a Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival T-shirt, and she was like, "Oh, what did you see there?" And I was like, "Oh, I work there." And she was like, "Oh, that's right, you did the pre-show speech for Hamlet. That was a great show." And I was like, for me, that was the biggest victory I could have had for that whole day. Yeah, was just seeing somebody from Coopersburg working at a store. I saw Hamlet and loved it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky business because you say Shakespeare and there is I don't understand it. I don't get it. Yeah. And conversely, from our end, from artistic people, you'll hear, "Oh, I get told all the time, oh, you make it so accessible." And my answer is, no, I don't. It is accessible. The entry point might become tricky. So if you want to say that, like, I make the entry easier, but I think the material is accessible. And you know how I know? Because I understand it. And I'm not,
I can show you my report cards. I can show you my SAT scores. Like, I wasn't very good at any of that. And yet, on a human level, I understand what he's writing about. And I think I feel proud of me and the people I've worked with, our ability to get at something in a way that feels relevant to you. And some of that has to do with just being less precious about what it is. I guess to get back to Shakespeare for Kids, there's something nice about regularly doing something that disallows preciousness. It disallows self-seriousness. If I talk to a creative who has an expectation about these kinds of actors can do Shakespeare and these kinds of actors can't do Shakespeare, I pretty much refuse that. I think if you think about Shakespeare that way, then you and I just have fundamental differences about why we think this material is valuable. And that's not to discredit people that look at Ovid or Plato or Shakespeare and are like, no, you have to meet it. It actually does require intellectual rigor, and I'm not going to apologize for it. You need to come up to it. I just think it robs the work of the ability to transform. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just think if you set it on a pedestal, it's always going to be above you. And I think that the goal as art makers is to pull that down into your chest and let it live in a way that feels like it can mean something to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Shakespeare allows you to kind of like unlock an emotional depth that maybe not other plays. You have to dig into it to find them. And in Shakespeare, if you connect your voice and your body to the words on the page, it allows you an expression and a size of expression that just isn't always invited in other plays and other texts.
Well, I mean, oh gods, do you see this? When Laertes sees his sister, that simple expression, that simple turn of phrase is powerful simply because it deigns to be as clear-headed and as simple in the moment as you could be. It's heartbreaking. You don't have to say 1,000 things. The readiness is all. I mean, there's something beautiful about Hamlet goes on this incredibly long journey. He looks at a skull in a box. He remembers that this is where we all go. And it allows him the tragedy. When you talk about the tragedy of Hamlet, right? That to me, the tragedy is that he understands life just before he dies.
Right.
And I think that somehow there's simplicity in that. It's actually not. It's not dense. It's not overly stylized. It's pretty direct, actually. And so it's the elevation of everything around it that allows for something that simple to cut through. So I think on a kid level, there is something nice about a clown falling over a trunk with a sock puppet that maybe, when Bella, who's in our show, plays Laertes, I want to believe that when Bella says that there's some pathos in what Bella is doing, that it's not just a joke, that Laertes says, oh gods, do you see this? That there's something, simple and exact about it. I don't know if that gets to it, but
I think it does. And listen, the thing about talking with you, Matt, is that we could go on forever.
Sorry.
And you don't need to apologize. These are great conversations, and we're going to have to invite you back to talk about other things. We'll probably do a preview of Willpower in our next season. Because this season's just about to wrap up. We've got one more episode next week that we're going to be recording, and then we're going to take a hiatus, and we'll come back. And so we'll come back and probably have a conversation about Mackers. And I look forward to digging into that more. But for now, I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the work you've done this season. We didn't even get to talk about Carl Lindner, the only white guy in that.
I don't think anybody needs to discuss Carl Lindner.
Not really.
I mean, he's well intentioned, but he's misguided. So
absolutely. But thanks again for being such an amazing part of Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival.
Thank you.
This is a place where relationships matter so much, and you just really are part of the family here at PSF. And so thanks for doing that. Thanks for all the contributions that you make here. Thanks for being a part of As You Mic It.
Thank you. I'm proud of my maiden voyage on As You Mic It.
A huge thanks to our guests, Greg Wood, Susie Stevens, Tony Lawton, and Matt Pfeiffer, as well as the TV Film Department of DeSales University for their ongoing support of this podcast. Timon of Athens and Shakespeare for Kids is running through August 2nd. You can get tickets for these, as well as the rest of our lineup, by visiting us online at pashakespeare.org or by calling the box office at 610-282-WILL. That's 610-282-9455. For all of us here at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival and As You Mic It, thanks for listening, and we'll see you at La Buddha. Thank you for listening to As You Mic It, a Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival presentation recorded on the beautiful campus of DeSales University. Our music is by Cedric Lamar, with hosts Jason King-Jones, Kim Carson, and Connie Berenger. For more information on our summer theater series, giving opportunities, tickets, and more, visit pashakespeare.org. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you at La Buddha.
Behind every standing ovation is a network of patrons who know that theater changes lives. With tickets funding only half the cost, PSF counts on contributions to produce world-class theater, cultivate new audiences, and nurture future generations of artists. Give today at pashakespeare.org/support. Great theater is a collaboration both on stage and off.